Right, hello. Gonna be doing a bit more Godot stuff today. Unfortunately didn't have any more time over the weekend for the game jam, so at the end of the last stream is kind of where we left it, which was like Saturday, I think. Can't remember now. But just because the game jam's over doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. I think it's a good experience to continue on with our Godot project. So I'm going to keep doing this for a bit and try and build out a kind of like a game jam sized game. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it'll be good to understand a bit more of Godot. I kind of want to have a look at using VS Code as our code editor instead. And then I was going to look at doing a code refactor and maybe play rating some games. Because even though I didn't submit a game to the game jam, you can still play rate. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I was just saying I basically didn't get any more time over the weekend, so the game is in exactly the same state as when where we left it at the end of the last stream. So I don't think there's any reason not to keep doing it. I'm not going to be able to submit it to the jam, obviously, but it'll be a good experience for checking out Godot. And yeah, I think I might. Yeah, exactly. I've done so many game jams now where it's like I've been so close to submitting and then just something else comes up, so I'm not too fussed by it. And also, I kind of want to be set up ready for the next LD. And also, is it Bracky's game jam is coming up? There's another one coming up pretty soon. Let me just see what dates. I think Bracky's starts on the 8th of September. So that looks like it's a week long, 8th until the 15th, which could be quite interesting to try out. And then yeah, LD on the 4th of October. So hopefully you're going to do both of those, but we'll see. Bracky's is Bracky's. Is it with an S? I think it's with an S. Let me find it. So it is this channel that used to do loads and loads of game dev, mostly about Unity. Let me just share this. Yeah, like years ago. Yeah, exactly. So they're still doing their game jams, which I think is yearly. I'm fairly sure. Is there a link here to? It might be in the Discord that they announce it. Can you search for jams under? No. I'm fairly certain. Let me just check. Where's the Bracky's server? This one. Yeah, so came back and did a couple of these two how to make a game in Godot, which I've started using. It's really useful. Where is it in announcements? I'm sure that they've announced the dates for it. Yeah, July here. So in the Discord, this is the most recent announcement, 23rd of July. Oh, here we go. Is this an active link? Let's check. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, hopefully Oh, there's theme voting as well. Okay, maybe we'll have a quick look at this as well. Oh, I guess I wonder what what we coincided with. If that was the GMTK one. Are there any different rules here? No NSFW, pretty standard. You can also use assets not made by you, but make sure you have a proper license for that. Well, considering it's a full week one, might be a bit easier to do. There's no grace period, so no submission hour. You have 2 weeks to rate games. Yeah, so it's pretty similar. Game needs to have at least 20 ratings to be eligible to win, so on. Let's see what the theme is. Theme votes are. Oh wow, there's this already down to a shortlist. The village, calm before the storm, oceans, an unexpected gift, ancient discovery, trees, who is it, and calm down. Whoa, what? That's quite random selection of themes. I like the idea of... I feel like I should vote closer to the time, but I'll probably forget about it. So, should we just do a vote now? There's some... Yeah, I do like quite a lot of them. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do it like these. I think trees I'm not sure of. I think trees is the one that I feel like that's a bit odd to me. But then I guess you don't have to do like trees as in plants. It can be like decision trees, skill trees. There's like ancestry. You could have a family tree. And who is it? Who is it? Is that gonna be just loads of Among Us games? I like these, but they're gonna be. I'm trying to think. I don't want it to be too narrow. Oh, but people always come up with random ideas for game jams anyway. So, what? Who is it? There's a game called Guess Who, which I think may be similar to what you're thinking. Or maybe it translates differently. That could be quite fun. I mean, there's loads. You could have like people in a lineup and disguises. A bit like that. What's the recent neighbor game? It's a bit like Papers, Please. It's like, that's not my neighbor or something like that. That's not my... Yeah, this one. So like horror-y, but... have to figure out through disguises maybe. Yeah, I could see something like that. Ancient Discovery. I also quite like Oceans because just like deep dark. I'm thinking of things that I could make into a horror game basically. They're all going to be massive scope though. I'm really bad at scoping my games. Not sure I like Calm Down. I think I'm going to vote for just these three. Yeah, that's it. It's done. Now I need to enter the jam. So I'm definitely going to do it. Okay. Right. So that's upcoming. And also LD's not started anything for this yet, has it? yeah, still got broken images. I guess in between jams, if he's doing updates to the website, maybe that's why the images are broken. Hopefully. I know it's wishful thinking. No, Mike does all the work on the website, right? He's got to do it in between the jams. I'm sure in the past he's done like big changes in between. Because doesn't he like shut down registrations for the website in between? Is there anything? No, there's nothing showing yet. Okay. So that's kind of the plan. It's just going to continue on with this game. I don't really know what direction it's going in yet, but we'll see. And then that should give me the Jam host domain name registration expired. Wait, on what? On LD? Really? On the LD Jam website? Is that why? Oh, is that why the links are broken? Right, okay. So it's using hosting somewhere else. Static.jam host. Yeah, okay. Where's sources? Yeah, it's just all unable to load. Anyway. Hopefully Mike still plans to do the next LD. I guess actually, like even if, say for example, they don't continue doing LD through this website, surely someone can just like spin it up on itch as like an unofficial LD and choose some kind of figure out how to do a theme. Spinning up a theme vote would be quite tricky, I think, though. That's the only thing. Right, anyway, what we're going to look at, I kind of figured out that a lot of the way that I've done this, in terms of scripts and stuff like that, isn't very good. It's very slapdash. And now that we don't really have a timetable for it, that means I can just take my time and actually try and do these properly. So we'll see how this goes. So yeah, because I wasn't really at my computer, I did make some notes over the weekend. And basically, I realised that a lot of the scripts that I started writing had things like looking for input events on objects, which, considering all of the input events are going to be coming from the player, I feel like none of the objects should know about the input events. There should be like a signal that is sent to them. So similar to how we're doing... wait, are the signals the other way around? That's the only other thing. So this slowed signal is giving other objects a way to connect to this. So I think the components should... Oh, yeah, okay, the machine and the components should have signals that allow other scripts to call it when we have like an input. So I don't think this should know about input events. Okay, wait 1 second, just gotta read the message quickly. Okay, so yeah, I think what I want to do is... I mean, do I even want the input manager on the player? And I need to figure out, actually, do I want to use VS Code? One sec. Yeah. I think it'll be much easier to use VS Code. Just so I can have scripts separately. I know it's nice to be able to switch around, but is that integration available yet? That's the question. So let's have a look. Godot. Use VS Code for game scripts. Oh, that seems pretty straightforward. 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second. Just gonna have to do a quick. Be right back. Let's do it back. Should only be a couple of minutes. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back now. Let's get rid of this, get rid of that. Okay, so well, if Google come back to their old AI results again, they started doing this and then they got rid of it. Can you disable it? I don't know, but let's see. You can set VS Code as your default script editor for Godot. Open editor settings. Go to text editor external. Check use external. Okay. Project settings or is it editor settings? Editor settings in here. Yep. Editor. Editors, no. Interface, file system, external programs. No, what did it say? Text editor. Text editor. External. Use external editor. Then part of your VS Code executable. And what? Why are these flags? Project go to file line column. Okay, we'll put those in. And then the path will be how do I find the path to VS Code? More open file location. Okay. This is just a shortcut. Can I open file location again? Yeah, there we go. And then copy path. Is that going to work? Where's the exe? Is it this one? Code.exe? I think so. Yeah. Okay. And then if I close this, what if I close these now? Oh, maybe. This looks like VS Code. Nice, okay. So, do I want to make a new profile? Where's profiles here? Let's call this Godot. Copy from. I don't really want any of these, do I? I wonder if there's any templates that people have already made. That doesn't seem to be doing anything if I click on it. Okay, icon. Let's go with the robot. Okay, then extensions. Are there any good Godot VS Code extensions? C# tools. I'm not really going to be using C#. Is this updated for Godot 4.0? All features fully support Godot 4. Okay. It's got 45 stars, 40,000, 400,000 downloads. I think that's fine. So we're going to install this. Better syntax coloring and additional features. Godot JavaScript. No. .NET tools, don't really care. Hoverdocs maybe. Snippets for C#, we don't care about. We're going to use GD scripts. Maybe we just go with the one that we got there. And then just general utility ones we want as well. What other utility ones? So I wonder if Python language support would work with Godot. Probably not. Code formatter, maybe. We'll have a look at that later. No, let's just go with this for the moment. Extension features will not unless this is fixed. So I need to show it the executable, this, and then reload. Okay, it's not complaining anymore. Hopefully that's all right. Get rid of the welcome, don't need that. I think this is better for script management and all that kind of stuff. Oh, the only thing is tying in the signals. Is that going to be annoying? How is that going to work? Because yeah, if I try and open it in there, I can do that. So scripts, if I do scale machine, this should open, but it opens here. So is that going to be worse because I can't tie in like signals out of this? So let's say on our door, we look on the collision shape, no, on the door itself, is it? Yeah, we've got these on body enter. Emitted when the received body enters this area. Body can be a physics or a tile map. Tile map detected if the tile set has collision shapes configured. Requires monitoring to be set to be true. Cool, no worries. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, so I can still attach it to the script. So I wonder if that auto updates the script as well. So let's say, for example, our door here, we want to attach like area entered, let's say, as a signal. If we connect it like this, yes, okay, it just does it attach it to the script. That's good. Okay, so it's a little bit tricky because it's on a separate screen, but as long as I remember to use these for signals. And then we just got to have a better understanding of what these are actually doing. So actually, just deleting it out of the scripts like that doesn't get rid of the signal, does it? I've got to go here and disconnect. Okay, but I still think that's better. Just because VS Code is a bit nicer to use, I think. So, rather than having the player like this, because our player script at the moment has the inputs, right? Here. And even like the animated sprite flips and stuff like that. I think that should all come off of the player. And we have a separate input manager that then sends out signals to other bits. So let's just refresh. So a signal here is giving a method for other scripts to interact with, right? Because it was on component that we used it. So let's look at these side by side. In our component, we take a connection to the player and we emit onto the carrying signal a value. And that is because on our carrying set weight, we're expecting an input weight as a float. So if I change this to like string, for example, okay, not string. Why did float work but string doesn't? Is it capital S? Oh, it is capital S. If I ever save that, does this then error? So let's say if weight equals 0, and we'll just put that in a string. Oh, no, didn't want that. So is that not complaining because it's converting it? Or is it not complaining? Let's do print debug. Is it not doing type? I don't think, I wouldn't be surprised if there's no type coercion here. Wait. So then if we go back to this, we save our door. I don't know what we changed on that, but why are you erroring? Node has no shape. Okay, scale machine. But why would that need a shape? It's got the area shapes on it. I think that should be fine. We'll see if it's going to complain. Okay, and then when we pick this up... Oh, I want to see the debugger. No? Cannot convert argument float to string. Yes, okay. So it can't output it. So there's no type checking. Because I was saying emit this. I wonder if I do this, does it tell me what this should be? Can I like hover over carrying? It tells me where it's defined. No, so I'm just going to have to be careful to figure out. Because if we change this back to a float, get rid of the 0, get rid of the string there, and then change this back to 5.0, and save all of these. And then does it still hot reload? Yep. God, the hot reload is so good. So that works. And it did give me an error to say it was wrong. So it's not like it's a hidden error. And it even takes you to the right label. Right line in the code. Okay, that's not too bad. Something to be aware of, but nothing too tricky. Okay. So, just thought I need to undo this. Script refactor. It's going to be too long. Thanks, Naki. How's it going? Right. So how do we want to set this up? We want a separate game object for the input. I think we do. So all we really want this is just to be like a script holder. What's going to be the best node to just like not do anything. Do I need it? I don't think I need it to be 2D, right? Line 2D, mesh 2D, parallax path. Remote transform, no. Visible notifier, no. Controlled. Or no use for independent rendering of objects, not really. Resource preloader. Maybe. Or what if I just do a node? Just like a blank node, that should be alright. So if we call this one like game manager, and then call this input manager, and then we can save that in our scenes. And I suppose technically the best way would be to have the input manager as a separate component, a separate scene. So let's do that. Let's just do blank node. It's going to be input manager. And we'll save that. So then in game manager, we're going to replace this. We can delete that and we're going to add our input manager as a subnode. Yes, okay. And then on this, we're going to add a new script, which is going to be in our scripts folder. Yep, open, create. And then this is going to take most of the player stuff. Called every frame. So physics process called during the physics processing step of the main loop. Physics processing means that the frame rate is synced to the physics. Only called if physics processing is enabled. Whereas this is called every frame. I mean, the best way to do this would be to look up how other people have done it, but I think it would be interesting to see if I can get something working first and then change it to make it better. So what I'm going to do is here, we're just going to say if input dot let's do the same. Is action just pressed? And let's start with player left. Oh no, we can just do let's do the same left and right here. So we've got a direction for our input axis. And then what we want is a signal to the player. So, like a signal, which we're going to call input. No, just input. And then where we've used carrying.connect. So on ready, we want to do input.connect. And we're going to pass it some information. And let's just call this like handle input. And then in here, we're going to have a function, which is going to be called handle input. Sure? No? I'm not sure we want an input event passed. I think this is going to be some kind of information. Do we just give it direction instead? It's not going to like that because of the other direction, but direction.connect, handle input. And then this is going to be a float, I assume. Direction, float. And then velocity. So we can probably do something similar if, oh no, velocity.x equals direction times speed. That's where this bit goes. If direction, otherwise move towards 0. So previously, it was on every frame of the physics. Oh, sorry, every loop of the physics processing, we would be checking the input direction and handling that. Whereas now we are only going to be calling it when the direction changes. So this doesn't need to be if direction. I think we just want to say, oh, we need a reference to the player though. So we need on our ready, actually up here we need, similar to what we did in our door, I think. No, here. Var player. Let's just call it player, that's fine. How do we set the player though? We need to figure out the way to do that, that's fine. So then this is still going to be every frame though. Player dot So we save that. We save this. And then we can do player.direction.emit direction. And then none of this? Yeah. No, is this going to work at all? Parameter delta is never used. That's fine. If that's intended to do underscore. Okay. So handle input, we use direction. Yeah, then we need to figure out this. That's fine. So velocity equals direction of speed. So really here we need to say if direction, do this, else we need this move towards 0. Yeah, and that's still shadowing, that's fine. So now we don't need this here at all. We still need to do the sprite flip though. The sprite flip. So let's just comment that out here. Which I think I can do with that. Yep. Is it now though? Where's the other direction? Already declared oh, it's the signal, right? Okay. So maybe we call this like direction input. I mean, I'll figure out the naming conventions I want to go with later. But should we just see if that works? So we can still move left and right. Not on that screen, we can't. Maybe I've got to rebuild. And let's see what errors come out. Errors. Those were okay so far. Can we move left and right? No. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I still can't move left and right. That wasn't it though. Let's see if this is outputting a direction first. Let's do direction. There's going to be lots because this is every frame, right? Okay, but it's not in the game scene. That's why. So we've got the script on there. We've got both of them on that. And then in here, we need our game manager. Invalid access to property or key direction input and base object of type nil. Oh, because we don't know who the player is. Okay. So how do we reference the player? Can we do this? Or is it the other way around? If we go from the player... What if we put the input manager on here? And get rid of this. So then now if we do this, connect to the input manager. Why has this gone back again? Let's cut this. We'll undo. I think I'm getting confused which direction this is going. No, I don't. Okay, we might need to look up here. Don't need this kind of stuff now. Don't need the bracky stuff. Don't need these really. Okay. Godot. What do I want to do? I want to... What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to say how to set this player. Because at the moment, this script, this input manager, doesn't know this player scene. It's going to take some getting used to getting the right terminology here. I'm trying to think if there's any reason not to put the input manager on the player itself. I don't think so. So what if I put it there? I don't remember what these are as well. I'm going to drop that just slightly. I just realised it's going to shuffle this as well. How do I do that? Let's put shuffle on. Cool. So maybe we need this at ready variable, on ready even. which is up here. Maybe this is an add-on ready. And then how do I get a reference to it? Copy node path, maybe? What does that come out as? Just dot. Okay, that's no good. Let's just tidy up the scene as well, because we don't want this twice. Get rid of that. Can I like do this? Maybe we do an export here, and then we can drag and drop it in the inspector. So player, now we can assign the player node. That could work. Should we see if that does work? Let's rebuild and see what happens. Okay, so that allows us the inputs. That might not be a good way of doing it, but at least it kind of works and makes sense. Let's get rid of that debug though, because otherwise it's going to be tons and tons. Okay, so that works. That gives us a way to do it that way. Which actually means now this doesn't have to be on the player, right? If we instead move this to the test scene, which we can't do just like that. So we'll delete it from here. We have it on our game manager. If we import the game manager into this game scene, we don't have... Can we do like here, player? Resource, vector. No, so our classes don't show up here. But if we did the input manager directly on here, no, we can't even set it here. What? So why is it when it's on here? I'm confused. Where did that option go? So it's there. But I don't have the option here. Let's delete that node. Let's save it. Let's go back here. We'll delete these two nodes. Or scenes, I guess. We'll save it. And then on here, we have this to assign. But it doesn't show up here. What? Oh, how has this gone back again? What? Something's not working with the scripts, right? If I delete this here and save, is that undoing it? And then put it in here. We don't have it there. That is correct again now. And then if we put it on the player, no. I'm so confused with this. We've got the script there showing. We put this on the game parent and save. Why is the script not showing here? Yeah, see, look, this is the old script. Why is it reverted the script? We close it and reopen it? Is it? No, it's the right script here. Why is this the old script? So if we go here to the script, that's fine. If we go here to the script, is that the right one or not? There's something not working with this. Maybe it's just better to use the script editor here. Because if we put an export on this, and then replace this, we don't need a ready function. If we save that now and then go back to our 2D scene, then we can assign here our player. And then if we rebuild, does it work? Oh, why is it not applying the script properly? Yeah, so the left and right works there. But the player shouldn't have left and right input now, because it's commented out here. Is it actually commented out in here though? We go to script here. We open the player script. Wait, how is this opening here? Oh god, this is so confusing. Can I put this on? Ah, maybe this is all I need to do, rather than using VS Code, just have this popped out instead. I think that's going to be easier. For some reason this wasn't connecting. Like, if we take it off the scene again now, is it going to revert or not? When we open up our input manager scene. No, we've still got the script there. Don't know where my script's gone now though. Separate screen, okay. Okay, even though I prefer using this, let's not use VS Code then. So editor settings, let's go back to not using external, which means I can get rid of these. Close that. We'll close this. We will reopen our game manager. And does this have, yeah, it has the player assignment. So what happens now if we put our game manager on our game scripts? Do we have an option for our input? No sub resources found. But we do have it on the input manager. So maybe we do something like this. Why is it input manager 2? Because the game manager has an input manager, right? What if we, can we open this? So we take this off. And let's just delete it. Let's say we don't need a game manager scene. But we just do a game manager node on this. Let's call this game managers. And then we attach our input manager to this. Now we have a reference to our player. And if we save that, that just handles the input. Actually, for consistency, let's do that. Oh, I don't want VS Code, no. And then we run it. Does that work? Yeah, okay, so left and right works there, as we were doing before. So now if we pop this out, no, this one. Oh, this is why I didn't want it. This is what I didn't like about this. It was you can't have windows next to each other. But if it means it works better, then maybe it's fine. Okay. That seems fine. So now I know that works. Let's see how bad of an option that is. Maybe if we look on YouTube somewhere, we go Godot Input Manager. Let's see what people have tried doing before. 5 years ago is a bit old. Let's filter by this year. Easy input settings menu, key binding, that would be good. Input singleton versus input events, that could be useful. But I want C#. That might be a bit loud. Let's turn that down a little bit. Nothing really looking at this idea. Let's see what this video has in store.
Have you ever stumbled upon your input code and noticed there was a couple of bugs, but you don't know how to fix them?
Let's just pause this a second.
Talking about how I fixed a bunch of bugs that I found on my input function. One will look at this code and say, yeah, it's fine, it's checking for inputs and stuff. But here, there's a bunch of bugs happening here, and also for other things, because you're not checking if the input that called this function is actually the one we want. And I also implement a state machine to make sure that my inputs are being processed the way that I want. So there are different ways to detect inputs, and there are different functions you can use it. So let's talk about this, and I'm going to show you a lot of nice tips dealing with inputs inside Godot. Play interface code. So being this, the code for the input section.
Okay.
A couple of things are wrong. The first one I'm going to point out is these bunches of ifs here. Because they are ifs and they don't have another sequence like else or elif, every if is executed independently, so every if could be run at the same time. So this was something that I wanted at that time. I was prototyping the code. But now we need to address this. And also something I want to address is that everything is using input here. So input has its own uses, but the correct use here for input is just this guy here. So this is one of the common ways you do to check for the input here. Now the rest here is actually pretty wrong. So we need to address this and see how we can fix this. So right here we have the case of the old code, which was this one that I had, and the new code, which is this guy on the right here. So I have hidden some parts of the code which are not relevant for this tutorial. But the important part here that you should notice is that I am no longer using only ifs. Now there's a sequence, so when you use elif here, one of these 4 ifs can be executed, but only one based on the input call. Because on this case here, every if is checked separately. Here, if one of those conditions in the downwards order is...
That's not necessarily always the case you want, but okay, fair enough.
Selected, and here all of those could be either false or true. You may notice that I'm using a simple machine state here, and I'm going to cover a little bit about on this video as well. So basically we're matching a variable here, which is an integer, and we are going to ask it if it is on a current state, and we're going to give some code here for it to run. So here I basically have divided my interface code, the input section of it, to be different depending on the modes that I wanted. So here I have created a mode for drag ball selection, for building mode, formation path, and idle. And this potentially can be expanded however you like. So the idea here is that based on the states that the interface is on its input state, we're going to change how the inputs are processed. If you are on an idle state, you're going to have a couple of possibilities. If you are on drag box selection, the inputs now will do different things, and that is the same inputs. That's the magic of it. We're going to change the behavior of the inputs based on an input state variable. And this variable is defined as a enumeration, which is an integer. So that's pretty cool stuff. So enumerations are useful because you're creating a list of constants, which can be referenced like strings, but in actuality behind the scenes they are working as integers. So
oh, that's what we need to do. Right, yeah, this is what I was trying to think of. Rather than this process, this needs to be on input, right? Ah, but we also need to show when the direction's released. But that should be picked up anyway, I think. So how we were doing it before, not this physics process, if we have a look at one of the other codes that we were doing, so maybe the component, let's see what that had. No, on the script, sorry. This input event. So then that's only run on an input event, right? Can I see any help, any docs about this? Docs, online docs? Search, underscore input. Input examples. Let's put the music back on and drop it down a little bit. Okay. This tutorial will learn how the system, many different types of inputs your game may use: keyboard, mouse, keyboard, gamepad, mouse, etc. Many different ways to turn these input into action into your game. This document shows you the most common scenarios, which you can use as a starting point. So events versus polling. Sometimes you want your game to respond to a certain input event, i.e. pressing the jump button. Others, you want something to happen as long as a key is pressed, such as movement. Godot provides the input singleton, which you can use to query. Event is action pressed, jump, then jump. Okay, so we can make this look a lot simpler. But do we need polling information for the left and right movement? Surely that's also noticeable by... Yeah, just by looking at the events, right? I guess the thought being there's no point having a separate direction set. So if you had like a separate variable that's set from the input event, and then you can test the state of the variable, it's no different from just testing the input singleton. Because this has balls on it, is action pressed. Mouse from touch, and action press, action release. Okay, because the balls already exist on the input instance singleton, that's why you'd want to poll the input rather than doing it event based. Okay. But then the handling of the movement, for example, you don't necessarily want it to be based on whether the key is being pressed, because there might be other conditions that prevent anything from happening. God, just trying to get my head around this whole structure. I think it's making sense. So I think what I'm doing, I'm correct in doing here. But rather than this being process, we want to say function input with an event. And if that event and then rather than axis get left, get right. That's probably the better way to do it, isn't it? Just input this. Let's see, does this still work? I know we're not using event here. But it doesn't matter. Because this input event should trigger on our pressing, let's say we're using A and D for left and right. An event should trigger when we press A while we're holding A and when we let go of A. So there should be 3 separate events that trigger. I mean, the middle one is continuous. If we're holding A, it will keep triggering. So that means this direction should be emitted as a 0 when required as well. So let's just test that. No. Refresh it. Let's go back to our test scene. We've got a reference to our player. Yeah, okay, so left and right still works. And it does the ramp down to 0 as well. But now we're not calling it every frame, we're only calling it when there's an input event. I wonder if there's a way to filter for like just keyboard rather than keyboard and mouse. Okay, where are those docs again? So then we can do something like this and build off of this. Okay. So what are the functions? What was I looking at in our player scripts? So let's do something like this. If it was if event dot is action just pressed player shift, then we can just for the moment print debug sprint start. And I think I need to put it in this. And then again, if event dot is action just released, right? I need to do just released. Player shift. This is going to give me a better understanding rather than just copy pasting. So print debug sprint stop. Let's see if this is still making sense. No. Action just pressed. Non-existent function. Oh, I need to check that it's not a mouse input. As you can see, results are very different for the different types of inputs. Key events are printed. It's the key symbols. So this won't work, right? If event is action pressed. Because it's not filtering it for the input map options, right? Is action pressed and is action released? Oh, here we go. No, that's not what I want. So the issue here is action just pressed in base. Does that stop it working though? Yeah, it does. Oh, is it maybe is action just pressed doesn't like it? Due to keyboard ghosting or inputs too many keys at once. Yeah, that's fine. So if I get rid of the just. Expected indented block after function. Which we've got, right? Does it have to have no space? Oh, because there's an A there, right. So how was I doing it before? If input is action just pressed. So this is different from our input event, which we're now looking at. Where's our input events? So an input event is an abstract base class for input events. Function unhandled input event if event is input event key. Use the input map. So they're doing this on the process as well. Okay, there's a full like process of handling the input. I'm not sure I really want to go into this too much. And sending events to child and descendant node. The viewport will do so as depicted in the following graphic in a reverse depth order first tree. Starting with the node at the bottom of the scene tree and ending at the root. Hey, welcome back. Just like diving into input. I'm basically like looking into making a input manager. So rather than having individually on like a component, for example, on the component script, if I had it open, where it looks for like input, like interaction events and stuff like that, I figured it's probably going to be cleaner to have an input manager that then uses signals to pass data into like the player script, for example, and then the player can use a signal to send and interact to the component. Because then I think it will be easier to not worry about like what buttons have been pressed or stuff like this within the actual like sub scenes, and have it all handled at one point. I don't know if that's going to be a good way to do it, but it kind of seems to be working. But yeah, it's at the moment I'm just reading through what's the difference between this input function and the input singleton. So this handling like input events rather than the actual singleton, which seems to be like the level above this. Basically, when I first set this up, just like 10 minutes ago, I was looking at process here and then having it polling the inputs, but that would mean that every frame or every loop of the process would be checking the inputs. Whereas if we've already got an event being triggered, I feel like it would be less if we do it based on the input event. It's probably going down a huge rabbit hole that I don't really need to, but it just felt like something that I'd want to look into. But it does work. So at the moment, this is saying... Well, actually, I haven't tested this bit yet. But this works, but there's no reason why it wouldn't. So then on our player script, rather than... We've got this direction input signal, which passes that direction in and changes the velocity of the player. So rather than we were doing it here in the physics process. Oh, are we not doing it in the... Does it matter we're not doing it in the physics process now? It probably does, doesn't it? So I wonder if it would be better to have this stuff in. Let's add this back in. Let's get rid of this bit. Oh, it's not matching the indent. Is that better? Direction is not declared in current scope. But if we're saying, let's say var direction here, and it's a float. So let's say, let's set it as a float, and we start it as 0. And then in here, oh wait, no, I've got a new direction here. Let's call this direction input. And then we just say direction equals direction input. And then this goes, which we'll just comment out for a minute. So now the input manager handles the input direction and emits that to the player. And the player then sets that, but in its physics process, it then changes the velocity. I think, yeah, velocity should be only changed in the physics process, right? Because it's got to figure out if it can. I assume there's going to be some interactions with colliders and stuff like that if I don't do it there that are going to mess things up. So this should all still work again. But the player script, now, if you ignore this shift stuff, let's get rid of that. The player script now doesn't actually interact with the input at all. It doesn't know if the input singleton, and it doesn't know if the actual key press is. Does shift still work? Oh no, I've not tied it in yet. Shift is recognized as sprint, but it's not tied in. But left and right still works fine. It doesn't feel any different to what we were doing before. I think I like that. Try 2 buttons at once. I've only got left and right at the moment. Oh, actually, no, left and right and sprint though. Yeah, so I can still register sprint while I'm moving left or right. So I think that's fine. Just holds it still, which makes sense. That's both, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is like if I'm going down a rabbit hole there. Yeah, that's the only thing. Also, welcome in. How's it going? Because while it does seem easier just to handle all the inputs where you actually need them, I just thought this didn't seem like good practice here, where I'm like on items in my game, them figuring out if there's like player interactions. Ah, nice. Good time. Good timing. So yeah, because to me this doesn't seem. This is GD script, so for Godot game engine, it's kind of Python-esque. It's like a similar language to Python. But yeah, to me this doesn't seem good practice to put a line of code that directly can see whether an input is being triggered in the component. I feel like that should be like an event that's bubbled to the component, not necessarily from the input. Because that way I don't need to do this whole like player detected all the time. Because I think this is testing whether there's an overlap with the player every time that there's an input from the keyboard. Hey Captain Fubar, how's it going? Yeah, all good. I didn't manage to do any extra on the game jam. so when we stopped on Saturday, that's basically where we got up to. But I'm continuing on anyway, just because it's going to be useful to figure out how this is all working. And yeah, just trying to figure out the right way to, yeah, exactly, right way to handle inputs. I'm thinking about, well, I'm trying out an input manager script that then bubbles signals to the various scenes that it needs to, if that makes sense. So then rather than doing this print here, yeah, there's no need to overcomplicate it, but I think this actually makes it, well, in my mind, I think this is going to be simpler. Because then, rather than doing this on input events, this will just be like, and even this on body entered, on body exited. I think this will just be like a, along the lines of signal, interact, and then yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I was looking into the docs about, is input as a function which is triggered on the input events, versus input as the singleton which actually handles all of the inputs and is available, like we can read values off of it and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm thinking along the lines of doing something like this: signal interact, and then we want to connect interact to a function, and we're going to call the function here something along the lines of function handle interact, and that's going to be, when I can get the right thing, a void. You can prioritize with unhandled input and then input. Yeah. So if it's, yeah, I can set like the priority of what script picks up the input using that. But what I'm thinking is, at the moment, this script here, I guess what you're saying is use unhandled input rather than input here. But this whole bit of script is running every single time there's an input from the player, like the actual player. So any keyboard, any key press or any mouse movement or anything like that is triggering this. Which probably isn't loads, but I don't necessarily need that to happen. If I do it via signals, I can tell this to interact when I already know specifically I want to interact with this object. It's probably an optimization that isn't actually necessary. But let's just do like, so actually we want to just do all this, right? In here. Oh, actually, let's copy this, comment it out. No, paste it there, and then comment out all of this. And then this is complaining that it's got the wrong indentation. So if we bring it back, no, another back. Yeah. Which I think in the long run, I would want. So then this is going to be handle interact. So then in oh wait, then it's this kind of thing though, isn't it? That I'm not going to know from the player. No? Has it changed quite a lot? Oh, wow. That's incredible if that's the case. GMTK game engine use. Is this updated? No, that's got to be an old one. 2021. GMTK Twitter has the stats. Oh, I hate using Twitter. So this is from 2022. So 61% Unity, 15% Godot. And then how do I see the most recent posts? So this is 2023, which was 59% and 19%. So basically very similar to 2022. Shouldn't it be at the top, right? Under the pinned one. This should be the most recent one. Why is it not? Why would it be down further? I don't like how Twitter works. So he said it's going to be very interested to see what this is in 2024. What, you think it's further down than this then? Oh. You'd have thought so. Is it because I'm not signed in? It's trying to be awkward to me. Replies? No. I don't want to have to log in. Maybe it's in a reply to that tweet. Is there actually? Let's see if there's replies to this. Yeah, because look, you can sort the relevancies on this. Oh, go away. Maybe if I go back to Google. Yeah, sure. Go for it. Thank you. I swear it's a Rickroll that you sent. Right, yeah. So 43. So this is down from like 60%, and this is up from about 19%. So it's almost directly transferred to Godot. All of the Unity, all to Godot. Let's have a look at that previous. So this is 2 years ago. So this is 4,000, 5,000. So about 6,000 submissions here. And it was 61% to 15. There's a lot more other as well, isn't there? Oh, that doesn't help. They've used different colors for... So, is this Game Maker? Is yellow and Unreal is green. Whereas here, Game Maker is green, Unreal is orange. No engine. Yeah, it's other engine in this 2022 one. And then do we have 2023? Let's get that back up, wherever that is. It's like down here somewhere. Oh, it's going to tell me to log in. No, it's not. Okay, good. Yeah, so almost 60% and almost 20%. Unreal not even showing separate. What? Yeah, that's almost directly transferred to Godot though, isn't it? If these slices are actually proportional, then it looks like Godot's taking even more than just the... Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's actually even more so. I mean, Game Maker's kept its 5%, it looks like. So maybe others lost out a bit as well. That's very promising though. Game Maker down from 2 years ago. Wow, yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's happening. I mean, I would say it does feel nicer to work in so far. And I think it's a lot to do with the UI UX side of things, apart from this whole script. So earlier in the stream, I tried using VS Code separately. But it wasn't accepting the changes properly. I must have been doing something wrong, but it's not worth moving out of this just so that I can put two windows next to each other. I think that's the main feature that's missing out of this script editor, is to be able to put the two scripts side by side. So you can read both scripts at the same time and copy and paste from each other. And to be honest, there's probably an add-on or like a plugin that lets you do that. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, back to what we were doing with this. So because we were saying we're attaching our player here. Yeah, I did that. Oh, tab ordering. No, I thought, sorry, I thought you meant this one that puts the tabs at the top. Oh, it is that one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think this makes more sense to me, having the files at the top that you can navigate. But yeah, here. So I'm giving an interact signal externally to the component. But how would I tell the player what the component is? That's got to be when the collision occurs. That's fine. Which we can do in here. Because our player can detect collisions as much as our components and stuff can. Oh, maybe I'm overcomplicating that. IntelliJ has support for GD scripts. Okay. But that's a separate IDE, isn't it? If I'm right in thinking this is... It's paid, isn't it? Go away. For individual use, they have a community edition. Have I heard of Zed? Open source? No, sorry, I've not heard of... Oh, wait, is Zed for content creators? For user groups, for computing tools. New kid on the block. But the issue I was having with Godot was, like, when I was trying to use VS Code, I'd save the scripts, then go back into the editor, and when I was working with the scenes, it wasn't showing my player export. And when I opened up the script here, it was showing an older version of the script, so it wasn't syncing changes between VS Code and here properly. It was probably because of a setup issue. But yeah, I think based on that, it's just easier just to use the script editor that they've got built in. Made by Atom Devs, but made in Rust. Ah. Yeah, I suppose one of the good things about VS Code is the extension library is massive. There's loads of stuff that you can use, and it's fairly lightweight. But bad thing is that it's not open source. It's all Microsoft run now, isn't it? Or owned now. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably. I think VS Code is quite lightweight. It's not, obviously it's not as light as some IDEs, but compared to like Visual Studio, like the full IDE, it's a lot easier to use. So rather than slowed, Yeah, yeah, really. What if I do instead? Bar is sprinting, for example. Oh wait, we don't want this each time it's called. We want this here. And we start on false. And then we set it's true. And false. This, I don't really want this to happen, but because this shouldn't care about setting states if it's an input manager. And let's just say if is sprinting direction times 2. Do I need to do, can I do times equals? Does that work? Who knows? Let's give it a go. Yeah, seems to work fine. But yeah, I don't think the input manager should know. Oh, brilliant, yeah. They're always useful to use. Yeah, I think that will be the case. Using, like, figuring out what button is being pressed and then send it to the relevant game object kind of thing. Yeah, this is the first game that I'm doing in Godot, so a lot of this is quite new to me as well. But match wouldn't allow me to do multiple inputs, right? Match works like a switch. If I'm, so it would only handle one of the inputs. I mean, it might do. Match. Match event. Yeah, it's definitely an abstraction layer. Just check the type of event and send it over to the specific object. But I kind of don't want the object to care where the input's coming from. So rather than slowed here, if I do set speed instead, Match expression. Patterns, block patterns, when. Right. Yeah, there is support for match. I can't remember where I've used it. I've used it somewhere. Or I had used it somewhere. I might have changed. Might have got rid of it. Is it in the scale machine? Yeah, down here. So we're okay. Oh, so yeah, you can set an array. Of options. But yeah, I don't think for this I need to care too much about that. But yeah, it's another way I could do it. So rather than changing the direction here, I want to send the sprinting state to player. What is this music? I basically just compiled all of the, like, a load of stream beats and game chops and then Heartbound music all in one. So let's skip forward. It'll let me skip. There we go. And then it's just on shuffle play, so there might be some weird music that comes up. So the problem with stream music is you've got to figure out like sources that are copyright free that you can get, that you can use. So really, rather than all these separate things, maybe I just want a, like, signal inputs. But then, yeah, why not just use inputs here? Am I just going down an extra path? Probably the case. Loads of them. There's we do print, debug, events. And then, like, you got all the mouse movements, you've got any button inputs. And it's like state of button inputs, so when it's pressed, when it's released, and if it's held, all that kind of stuff. All the mouse motion, so where the position of the mouse is, what speed it's moving. They're all fairly standard, they look like. Yeah. So where was it that we were just having a look at? Is it... This guy was doing something similar. where based on your input state, the inputs do different things. Yeah. Yeah, so this makes sense when we get to this kind of stage. But for what I'm doing here, it's just for like play inputs. So I don't need to do that just yet. I kind of want to get my head around this bit first. So I'm wondering, rather than having a float input here, maybe even working directly on an original type would be fine, maybe even helpful. So input event is not a bad choice, especially if it contains other properties. You can wrap it together. Some custom type. Yeah, I'm not in that. I don't think I'm at that stage yet. But I kind of want a lot of this stuff to just be very straightforward sections. But direction input float. So what if I set everything? And then at the end of the input event, we send everything. So can I do multiple inputs? Like is what we do is sprinting here as a bool. So let me do that, yeah. So then here, we just emit this as well. So there's going to be like an object that gets emitted. But the whole point is to minimize it. I assume this would work though. So then we can cut that out there. And then in here, we just have the same thing. So then that should just handle the sprint. But rather than it being ×2, this is where you could then have our sprint speed. So like, and this is probably a good export option. So export var, let's call this sprint multiplier. Sprint factor equals 2 to start with. Really, this shouldn't be capitalized. It's just default speed. Actually, does this work in here? If I just F2 this... No. That does the wrong... I can't change... No, there's no, like, rename symbol option. Control-Shift-F. Oh, find and replace, basically. Thank you. Try that way? No. Probably easier just to copy and paste here. Place all. Okay, then local changes reload. Okay. So now in our player, we have this. So then for testing, is this going to be... Oh. Float and nil. What? So that should be set to float, right? Why is it null? Oh, because this variable wasn't set up the last time we built, right? I'm assuming if we rebuild, it'll be fine. It's just the hot reload. Can't manage with a new variable that wasn't there when we first built. Yeah. Okay. So then if we go to our player here, we can change this to like way higher. Let's say 4. And then our sprint is a lot faster. Oh, this is why you're saying about having this always on top for our game scene. Probably a good idea, because then you can interact with this stuff without losing focus. Okay, I feel like this is making sense to me more. So then in the physics process, it should only be doing things that actually affect like physics properties. So this shouldn't care if we're sprinting or not. It should just be setting velocity. That's it. And the animation sprite and stuff like that. I suppose that depends on the velocity. No, okay, let's say, for example, we're on a stage that has like a slippy surface. You might start turning around to walk backwards. Before your velocity returns to a reverse direction, you might still be sliding forwards. So you'd want the sprite to turn around, but it would still be moving. Let's say the sprite will be facing left, but the movement, the velocity of the player is still to the right because it's still slowing. So yeah, it shouldn't be, the sprite shouldn't be based on the velocity, it should be based on the input. So that's the wrong place to do it anyway. So it should be based in this direction. And really, the animations and stuff, again, I'd want to be kind of separate. But we can have that here for the moment. So function, handle, sprites. I don't know what input I want to have just yet. Do that. So what would make sense here? Let's think of an example. So if we're saying like sprint in a certain direction, based on the velocity, you might have different animations, but also based on the input direction, you'd have different directions. So maybe I want to flip sprite rather than just handle sprite. Oh god, this I feel like this is something we just need a quick and dirty solution to start with, and then as we develop, there'll be a reason to refactor it, and that's where I'd have a better understanding of what inputs I need to cater for. Because this will depend on animation style and input options and movement controls and all that kind of stuff. So I think we just want a direction. Do we want the direction input again? Do we even care about having that passed in? I think we can just reference direction anyway. Yeah, I always do this. Like I start working on a bit of code and then I'm like, but what if this case, in this case, and then I end up like planning out this massive way of doing things and then use like 10% of it. So that should still work though. So we just say here, we just call handle sprite. And now that should just turn it around when we choose to turn around. Oh. I don't want to automatically turn back though. This is when I release left, because the direction is 0. It's flipping it back. So technically we only want to do it when it changes from positive to negative. Which can just be an else if again. Is it elif? So I can do it like this. That's fine. But that's just, it's a bit cheap. Yeah. Because it has a set direction to start with, that's fine. Okay, I think that's a good point to take a little break from this. I'm not going to bother too much with doing pixel art stuff today, but I do want to do some playrate stuff. So maybe we see if we can do some games on here. Are there ways to filter Yeah, this requires me to rate entries at random. Is there a way that I can just do play in browser? Yes, okay. Nice, because I don't really want to bother downloading games. Just the extra step of worrying about viruses and all that kind of stuff. You can only shuffle your queue once. Okay, so let's do a little playthrough of a couple of games. Yeah. I mean, I've done that loads for Bloom Dare. Where in the past when we've done play rating streams, I kind of just trusted that people in chat are going to be okay. But it's not a very sensible method. Because I'm not using a virtual machine. I'm not doing anything like for security. And I think that's something that going forward I just need to be a bit more careful with, just in case. So far as I know, I haven't downloaded any viruses, but let's see. Okay, so let's give Plug Factory a try. If I just put this on a new screen. Okay, how to play. Click on blocks to move them into slots. You can stack them. You must cover at least 70% of the holes in order to proceed to the next round. If your block hits the wall, you lose. After each round, you gain a new block equal to the sum of all the holes you covered in the previous round. Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen as well, isn't it? It's kind of feel like that is a reason why I just need to set up a virtual machine to do any of this kind of stuff. You gain a new block equal to the sum of all the holes you've covered in the previous round. You can also trash any of these blocks if you've realised you grabbed too many. There's no restart, so you have to refresh. Sometimes the wall hitbox detects a collision with one of your blocks even when it shouldn't, which will lead to an early game over. Unfortunately, you couldn't fix it in time. Hope you still enjoy. Okay, so first thing to check, I'm not going to play straight away, is audio. So we'll wait for the game to load. Is there a title screen? No, there's no title screen. Is there an audio? I can't hear any audio, although Chrome seems to think it is. Let's pause this. Oh, there is audio. How loud is that? Is that okay for you guys to hear on stream? Okay, let me know if it sounds too loud. I should be hearing the same thing as stream is hearing, but just in case. Actually, am I at full? Yeah, I'm at 100%. Okay. So how do I move? Oh, click and drag. Okay. It peaked a little bit loud. Let's drop that just a bit. Okay. Wait, what? I'm confused. I thought I put it in the right place and then it moved back again. Let's refresh. There's no reload, so I have to refresh. Yeah, I thought it said that as well, but there was stuff over the screen, so... I think if I full screen it, you don't see the edges, do you? So I'm not gonna... Oh, you're not losing much, actually. Is that there? Keep. And then, how do I get another? Okay, that... I feel like 22... Let's just do that. That's good sizing. That's fine. Yeah, do I click on this to spawn a new block? We do that. Replace with one by one? Okay. And like that? Okay. I don't know why it said replace... Oh, we're replacing this with a 1x2. Okay. I understand now. So we've got 5 slots here. And that button that comes up that says replace is replacing the slot. What? Did I not line up properly? Was I... Did I... Did I... Was I not paying attention? Did I do it on the wrong slot? On the wrong lane? I was concentrating looking at the UI after, so... That's definitely aligned. Okay. Hit replace down below to get more blocks. Okay, so it did say on the wall what to do. Is that not? That's lined up, right? What? I'm confused as to what I'm doing wrong there. There's no other way of aligning that though. The 2x1 has to go in the middle. I'll give it one more go, but I think there might be an error going on here. No, because you can only get the shapes that you've made. So this will now give me like a 2x1 rather than a 1x2, which it was doing before. Or the other way around, yeah. No, it's not. Can I can't flatten it. Hey Cascade Green, how's it going? So what, how did that work that time? Okay, we want to trash... No, I wanted to trash that one. No. Yeah. Okay, so I don't have to replace it all. Oh, and I can overlap them. What? Is that going to work? Or is this not going to work? Apparently it's going to work. Something like this. Can I... Oh, no. Can I trash this one? I can't trash this one. I can trash that one. Oh. Yeah, I'm not totally sold on on this. This is game. This is just play rating actually. This is for the GMTK Game Jam. I started entering it. It happened over the last weekend. I started building a game in Godot and then ended up not actually having the weekend to do it. So I didn't actually submit a game, but I'm playing through my GameCube and seeing what we got. I can't actually pick any games at the moment because I didn't submit. I have to work through a queue of randomly assigned ones, which I think is something unique to this jam. But if I get through the first 10, then I might take some submissions. Yeah, I think having the instructions on here, I might need to use that trash button now. So this one we want to trash. And then we can only make that shape because that 2x2 was going to be too big. So we got to trash this one. Put that up there and put that there. I don't think we were allowed... We were really meant to overlap things. Okay, there's some issues with the development, it looks like. So do we go back to this page? And we have this open. So you must cover at least 70% of the holes in order to proceed. If your block hits the wall, you lose. Sometimes the wall hitbox detects the collisions with one of your blocks even when it shouldn't. Okay, yeah, so this is the bug that we're running into, I think. No, I think it's the collision overlap is kind of not working properly. Okay, so what do we rate it on? Enjoyment, creativity, and style. Let's put our music back on. Love the idea, can't pass the fit. I think it's a cool idea, sometimes hard to move the blocks in times because the text stays on screen a bit too long, making it a little bit difficult to figure out. Okay, I think adding a small tutorial mode, yeah. Over the course of time, the holes become larger, so do the queues. The game is all about judging the size of the openings and carefully planning and placing your inventory blocks. I kind of like the idea. I assume this is a one-person submission. Does it say? University student by the looks of it. I think it should say somewhere, like the team size, right? I thought you had to add that as your submission. But maybe not. I mean... I don't want to be too harsh, but I feel it's quite middle of the road kind of stuff. And I'm required to leave a comment. Okay. So let's have a quick look again at the style. It's got some styling. Pretty simple in terms of like... Oh, I don't like that it resets your placements when you replace. And then is it always this kind of shape here? So I wonder how they're checking for the overlaps. Yeah, this is the thing. Because I can place it like that. I wonder if I can just place that in. Oh, no. Let's trash that one. There we go. Yeah, I don't get how I'm doing 140% of the hole, but we'll see. Replace with a 1x7. What? I can't make this hole shape. Because I'd already got rid of the 1x1. Yeah, I feel like if it output the same shape as the hole that you got, but I thought that was what it said. Yeah, new block equal to the sum of the holes. Okay, so is it random? It might be random shape that you get, but the same dimension, same total area. as the hole that you blocked. Okay. I hate writing comments. What? What's the overall thoughts here? In terms of style, it is just 3D cubes, right? I don't know if I can give a decent score. Yeah. I hate doing rating of games because I always feel like I'm quite harsh on it. But ultimately, in terms of style, this is a UI element and 3D cubes. I mean, the little indication to show where you're placing the cubes, I suppose, is a bit. I do think now I understand it. The mechanics work, and I get how we're scaling up. It's just a bit unfortunate that there's the bug. Okay, what do we want to write? That's the thing with LD, I used to do the kind of like reviewing on stream, and then afterwards I could come back and do the actual rating and comment. I don't have to type out comments directly. Worried about difficult direction. Yeah, I guess there is that. But you could always put the wall further back or slow the movement for more complex. Like, if you're going to scale this up, so for this game, like there's quite a few different directions you could take it. I think it would be very useful to have a little bit more time here the first time you land. Maybe even have it that it pauses a second before it starts moving and has some like user interaction to start the game. Oh, you can always do this, right? So you have time to look at it with the pause screen active and plan what you want to do with your blocks. But in terms of like difficulty and complexity, I would say you could do something along the lines of having support structures, or like you could even get it up to a point where you add in glue. Yeah, it's not, well, you can have a bit of both. So let's say more complex patterns on the wall could be like a line straight up and then like a branch out, like tree kind of shapes, and you'd have to put your tallest block in for the line, but then you'd have to like glue blocks onto the side of it so they don't drop down. So that could add a level of difficulty rather than just like stacking blocks on the floor. Yeah, I think the puzzle, We have a limited amount of elements that you need to plan how to support your blocks to make them survive until a wall comes. So like, yeah, a bit like what's the like bridge builder games? Can't remember what they're called. Yeah. But yeah, there's quite a lot of complexity you can do just on the base level. But yeah, I think once you've seen, I think having the whole line up to what you can make out of your shapes is useful. Because if, like we saw in one of those runs where I trashed a 1x1 cube because it wouldn't fit in the previous version, but then the next hole I wasn't able to complete it at all because I only had, like the blocks I had wouldn't make it fit. I guess that's where you get a lower score, but because that's down to luck and RNG rather than what the player's doing, it doesn't feel that good. So you could always, before the hole in the wall is generated, have it check what blocks the player still has. And then build the hole based on that. But then there'll be no reason to use the trash options, I guess. So how would I think to build this forward. I think the score is about how the game is now. But I always think useful feedback includes potential directions the game could go. So normally when I do a comment on it, I'll leave like a timestamp to the YouTube VOD. So if the developer wants to see like feedback, they can see it as we played it. But yeah, I would say having the score based on how large of a hole you're filling, and then having the hole generated by what pieces are available, would then encourage the player to use the trash options to get rid of smaller blocks, so that when the holes are generated, like once you've unlocked bigger blocks, the holes generated should match those bigger blocks. But there'll be more difficult orientations and stuff like that. There'll be more ways to orient bigger blocks when you've got a bigger hole shape. So I think that would make sense to me. You could still have it as a timed based activity. Yeah, rotation is another thing that would be good. I mean, really, where you get to is, what's the block orientation game? There's like a physical game that has different block shapes. That people do, which this kind of reminds me of, because there's like infinite complexity you can go up to. No, like it's actual. Wait, let me just mute this. Really can't remember what it's called now. It's like a daily physical game. I don't know if this is gonna figure out what I mean. It's not really a block. No, it's going to the wrong thing. really, my mind's going such blank on this. It's basically like they are kind of similar to Tetris shapes. You have a rectangle of indented like board, and each of the pieces are like spheres that are connected together in certain shapes, but they're all different colors. And you pick a couple of, it's like a puzzle. You put a couple of pieces in, you shake up the box, so like you close the lid, shake the box, and wherever the pieces land, you then have to place all the other pieces in so they fit completely. But based on, like, you can spin the pieces around and they have different rotations and orientations and stuff like that. I really can't remember what it's called, but I don't know how to search for this. Puzzle game, orient blocks, orient pieces. No. Color. Let's put colored pieces in shape. It's not the kids' ones. It's actually quite tricky, difficult. Add up the difficult minus kids. It's getting closer to things like this. No, I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, there it is. This one. What's it actually called? IQ Fit? But yeah, it's this kind of thing. Basically, I wonder if there's any videos showing how it works. IQ Fit puzzle game. Canoodle, that's the actual word, the name that I'm thinking. Canoodle. So, bit of a risk. Going on to TikTok, see if it works. Don't be super loud, please.
Okay,
Fine.
I'm doing the shake method for this game, which is when you take a piece.
So yeah, basically you put a piece in,
And you shake,
give it a shake up, and it lands in a certain location.
That's actually not the intended way to play the game. I've actually just saw that.
Just show how the game works.
Patterns, different pieces, and this.
So you could have quite complex. Basically, how this relates to the game that we're talking about, the Plug Factory game, is there are quite complex different patterns if you can rotate things around and move them about that could be very similar orientation puzzles that you get on this wall with the blocks that you unlock.
This is how you have to set it up exactly. And now with these remaining.
And you don't really need to
So
configure too much in it.
a little easier. So I did that pose 100, which if you want to.
Because it seems like this kind of setup is always solvable. For this, it's basically like, can you complete the puzzle? There's different levels of difficulty.
Compare. This is how you have to. I'm gonna choose a puzzle.
And it's just a case of like, I guess the scoring system is how many blocks left over. So a perfect solution would be all of the pieces fit in and it fills the full block. But if you can't manage that, you might leave like a 3-piece out, like this little white piece here that's only worth 3 points, let's say. So you want to go for a lower score by number of gaps remaining. But it does seem that if you use this kind of setup, you could do some quite complicated fills in here.
Like, there's 200.
And how you'd set the difficulty is like this whole board is the wall face, and you could fill in sections of the wall face with blocks to make a more difficult pattern. So maybe it's preloaded with difficulty rating of the puzzle.
Here, there's like all this space missing, and you have to set it up exactly how the picture is.
So these ones are apparently expert, but you've already got most of the pieces in. I'd say it's much harder when there's only like one piece in, because there's loads of different orientations. But yeah, anyway, there's a big tangent on ideas here. Yeah, the fact that wherever you place the block, it's kind of like dropped. Kind of wouldn't allow for that anyway. You'd have to change a little bit with how this setup works, so that you could have, maybe you have different types of blocks. Some of them aren't affected by gravity and some of them are, because that would be a way to add in extra difficulty. It's a shame that the collider overlap isn't working. But that would be a way to add in extra levels of difficulty, because you'd have to pick the right ones that do fall, and then you could have more interesting shapes on the wall rather than just flat on the ground. But that's something that could be developed out if the person who made this game wants to continue developing. Yeah, I would say that the user interface is a bit large for the screen. I quite like using the in-game environment to show, rather than having like a pop-up for the information. We're gonna get blocked again, we'll see. But yeah, I think you need more time to be able to read that, because you're probably, the first thing you're looking at is the shape of the hole. Then the second thing you look at is what blocks you have. Try and place them in the right order, and by the time you get to read the text on the screen, it might already be out of view. So maybe having it hold on the screen first, and then having the hole revealed after the player might have to like interact with it first. So you have the wall up on the screen that has the information about the next hint that you're giving to the player, and maybe just like moving a block on your board then reveals the hole in the wall, and then then it starts moving towards you. So you have like a little pause in between. Yeah, I think there'd be an option. Yeah, maybe you have like a button pop up, and when you press the button, that triggers like a little mini explosion and then shows where the hole is, or that causes something that knocks the hole out or something like that. You could maybe have like little characters run across and break open the hole or something, or something along those lines. But yeah, so that the player has a chance to read what's on the wall, rather than having to immediately look at the gap and figure out what's happening. But yeah, I like the idea. I see how it's built to scale. Like, you're building up the blocks, you're getting larger blocks over time. It fits in fairly well with the theme. Do they have rating criteria? Does it say? Creativity is how novel and interesting, whether it's hit the theme in an interesting direction. Style covers aesthetic properties like art, music, juice, and tone. Didn't really listen to the music. And it doesn't list the music as an asset, so maybe the music's been made for the game? Or it could be an asset. It could have been made. It's difficult to tell. Like a record starting up. Oh, it's a bit louder than the sound is. I don't like that resets. It's a bit of a weird interaction to like bounce it off. Like if I can squish the what's with that interaction? That's so weird. Can I squish these down? Like that must be like a plugin, right? Why would you code that in? Yeah, it doesn't need the physics to bring it down. Like you could just have them snap to the ground level. That seems a weird interaction to program in. That's got to be part of a plugin, right? The whole squash and stretch. It doesn't strike me as something that would have been developed for this game. It could be a bug that became a feature, yeah. That's not just like generic Unity interactions though, is it? Like that. That's been programmed in or imported in. It's quite fun. There's a bit of a delay on the audio as well. That sound effect. Someone is screaming 100. What? Wait, I've got to listen to that. That would be really cool. Books now. So like you got a hole like at the top of the wall. Well, I'm gonna try on this one. There is a voice there, yeah. But yeah, like you have this setup where one block's at the bottom, one block's like higher up, and you've got to like time this release so that you line up. Yeah, I can see how. Yeah. But yeah, that'd be cool because considering you got that feature implemented in the in the physics. Oh, that's why we're getting dodgy percentages as well. Because of this like collision overlap, it thinks that we're filling more of the holes than there is. I assume that's what's happening. Try to get 75. That's... And maybe there's no recorded values for the 125 because it's not expected. So if we trash that one, then we should only get 50, right? Which block, which side do you think is easier to not collide? No, I didn't hear a 50. Oh yeah, it did say it has to be over 70% somewhere. Maybe on the game page. Let's see if there is a 75%, if we can get to it. Okay, so let's trash that one, and we do that one. Fingers crossed, don't collide, please. How is that 100%? Okay, I'm not that fussed about listening for that. This is just procrastinating right in the comment. I think I'll do the comment later because I want to do a link to. Yeah, we definitely gave it a try. I want to give a link to the timestamp in the VOD as well, so that they can have a look at all the thoughts. Any other thoughts from chat that you want to transfer across? They'll be able to see on screen. I think that there's definitely potential there for a good puzzle game. It made you laugh a few times, so thank you. Pre-setup, yeah. Always useful to have audio options available. It's worth having a default option setting. Yeah. I think it's just going to be the one because I'm locked into a set queue for the first 10, and I don't like writing comments on stream. So I'm going to return to this later after I end stream and do the comments and the rating. But yeah. Okay, do we want to do some more Godot stuff? We'll do a little bit more. I need to turn that music back down though. Down to there. Hey CJ. How's it going? Thank you for the raid. Welcome in. What were you up to? Welcome, welcome. What am I doing at the moment? Kind of still playing around a bit with Godot. This is my first game in Godot, so it's kind of just having a little play around with an input manager today. Not doing game dev, just 3D artness. Very finicky polygon cleanup. Oh gosh. Sounds like fun. What do you use for your 3D? Is it Blender stuff or using like, is it Maya? Another option? There's loads of them now, isn't there? So I think sending these bits of info across to the player makes sense. But the whole pickup stuff. Handle interact. Wait, that was still working though, wasn't it? Thanks for sticking around, Hungry Nugget. Time to feed your brain cells. Is that by revising or by eating? Is that like research or Maya? Yeah, it probably is Maya, isn't it? It could be research based or food based. Nice. Well, enjoy then. So this now, yeah, the detection still works on body enter, on body exit. And then the interact is triggered from the player. So when the player sends the how is this sending this though? Interact connect. So there should be an interact emit from the player, right? Did we do that? But then the player needs to know. Oh god, I'm so. This is probably taking a like a gameplay break in between. That's the usual pronunciation. Maya. Okay. But if you're in Godot, I'm sure you've encountered multiple pronunciations, and it's pronounced it's GIF, right? That's what I use at least. Yeah, Godot, Godot, wherever there's, and even Ludendare or Ludendare. I've heard different pronunciations for the Game Jam as well. Loads of different options. Maya. What did I say first? Maya. No. Maya. Oh, some people named Maya pronounce it Maya. Okay, you're right. You accept which? The Ludendare. I guess if it is, I think even the, yeah, LD's a lot safer. I think I'd say Ludendare, just because it's easier to say. But I do think if it's Latin pronunciation, if it's Latin words, it should be Dare. But yeah, LD is way easier. So yeah, what I was trying to figure out though, yeah, it does feel silly. So that's why I normally say Ludendare. I think Ludendare makes more sense. Right, so what I was saying though is before we were doing, our interact was coming from the input singleton, which then tells this component that the keyboard button is being pressed, basically. Now, I want this component to not care about the keyboard at all. So I've given it a signal, but how does the player know of this scene to emit to, is the question. Because the player is different from a component. The component's just an area 2D, whereas the player is the character. I mean, the thing here is just to look at interact tutorials. You casting spells at us now. What's that? Emote, hype mage. Nice. Okay, let's have a quick look at this tutorial to see like a baseline. So let's just put a link in the chat there.
Hey, I'm gonna show you a super easy way to implement interactions between...
Oh, that's so quiet. Right, let's pause the music. And we'll bump up the YouTube.
the player and the world of your game.
That's
We're
a bit
gonna
loud.
make it modular and flexible, so in a few minutes you'll have a system that you can just slot into any and every game you make in Godot. Without further ado, let's Godot.
Hey.
You can choose to implement interactions in one of two ways, using inheritance and using composition. Neither is wrong, but I feel Godot favors composition and it makes the game making process easier. So instead of creating a scene called interactable and inheriting our interactable objects from it, we'll make an interaction area scene which we can pop into any object we want to be interacted with. We'll also
Okay.
create an interaction manager scene to handle player interaction with multiple objects. Let's create an interaction folder and inside it another interaction area folder in which we'll create an interaction area scene with the root node being area 2D.
Okay, so immediately a different setup in folder structure. So because this first Godot game I've done, that may make more sense actually, having things grouped by what works with each other rather than by type. But I was just following along with the Brackeys make a game setup. So let's might
Let's
change
set
stuff
up the
around to
collision
this.
For the area by expanding collision. For the layer I'm gonna choose nothing. And for the mask I'm gonna choose player. You just have to make sure that your player scene's collision layer is the same as your interaction area collision mask. Let's add a script to the interaction area. First of all, let's name the script by using class name and name it interaction area. Then let's export a string variable called action name and set its default value to interact. This is the text that will be shown above an object to indicate it can be interacted with. Then let's create a variable
Which
interact of type
might do and
callable
might not.
and initialize it to a function that will just say pass. A callable is a type of variable that holds a function. Any object with an interaction area can override this interact callable and provide its own implementation for the interaction. I'll give you two concrete examples of this later on. Now in the interaction folder, let's create an interaction manager scene which will be of type node2D. Let's add a label which will indicate which object can be interacted with. Let's set its text to E to interact.
So this is all for the UI side of things. Don't really mind too much about that.
And vertical.
Let's just see how the code bit works.
Assign it a button. Load up the interaction manager and press add. So now our interaction manager is a singleton and it's auto-loaded. Now it's time to write the interaction manager script.
Okay, so you don't have to load it into the scene that way.
First we'll get to player by writing onReadyVar player equals get3.getFirstNode in group, with the group being player. Of course, make sure your player is indeed in the player group.
Okay, so this is
We're
how it
also
picks
gonna
out
get
the
label from the scene. Let's make a
player
constant
directly.
text and set it to a string of E2. This is the first part of the interaction label, and the other part is going to be the action name that we defined in our interaction area. Let's make a variable called active areas and set it to an empty array. This variable will hold all interaction areas that currently can be interacted with. Let's also make var can interact and set that to true. The idea is that all interaction areas will register themselves in the interaction manager once the player enters them, and they will unregister themselves once the player leaves them. So let's make functions for that. Let's make function register area with a parameter called area of type interaction area. And it's simply going to push this area into our active areas. Let's also make a function called unregister area, which is also going to take an area parameter of type interaction area, and then it will find the index of the passed in area by calling activeareas.find area, and will check if the index is not equal to -1, that is, the index exists in the array, and if it exists, we're going to remove the area from the active areas, so activeareas.remove at with a specified index. Okay, so now we have all the interaction areas that can be currently interacted with in the interaction manager, but what do we want to do with them? Well, first of all, we want to show the interaction label above an area that can be interacted with. So for that, we'll go into the process function and we'll check if activeareas.size is greater than 0 and can interact is true. In which case we want to sort all our active areas, so the first active area is the one closest to the player.
This is kind of
To do that, we'll write active areas
extra from what we need.
which takes a custom sorting function, which we will call sort.
I don't think that the best idea would be not to put overlapping interactive areas in the game design, but that's a different process anyway. But what I don't get is how is that registering and unregistering the areas? Surely you need to check for collisions first, right? So labels I don't care about. Areas player. Sort by distance player, okay. Okay, that's smart. So the closer you are to the center of the area, the higher the priority will be. So where there's overlapping regions, it's whichever one the player is closer to, that's fine. And there's just a distance to function. The labels, don't mind about. This is what we mind about.
And
Interact.
also if can interact is true, then we're gonna check if activeareas.size is more than 0, so the player is within an active area, in which case we're gonna set can interact to false and hide the label. We're going to await the active areas at index 0, so our closest active area.
Have I missed where he set up like collision detection?
Since interact is a callable, we cannot call it like a normal function with just a set of parentheses, but we have to write .call. Other than that, it's just like calling any other function. And we expect this function to be asynchronous, which will depend on however you implement it in your interaction objects. But after we await for it, we're just gonna set can interact back to true. Okay, so now all that's left to do is go to our interaction area, and in the node tab we're going to connect the body entered signal.
Right, okay, yeah. So this is the bit that
body exited signal. So the area can register itself in the interaction manager properly. In onBody entered, we're gonna call interaction manager.register area, and we're gonna pass in self. And in onBody exited, we're going to write interaction manager.unregister area, and we're also gonna pass in self.
Okay, so the thing I'm seeing here is that to pass the object to the player that we want to interact with, we kind of have to have a singleton somewhere that we can register what we're overlapping with. It's not really being passed directly to the player, it's being passed via the manager. Maybe?
I have an NPC here, and I would like to have an interaction area on him, and when the player interacts, I want to start a dialogue. So first of all, I'm gonna add our interaction area, and in the inspector, I'm gonna change action name to talk. And now the area has this warning symbol because it doesn't have a collision shape. So I have to add a collision shape, and it can be any shape I want. I'm gonna choose a circular shape and expand it a little bit. And now in the script, first of all, I got the interaction area from the scene. Then in the ready function, I set the interaction areas interact to a new call.
So this is on the NPC. When it's loaded, go away. When it's loaded, we're getting a reference to the interaction area on the NPC scene. And then on that,
callable, and when you're making a new callable you have to pass in two arguments. First of all, the object that holds the function of the callable, so this is going to be self, and then the name of the function, which is onInteract in this case. Then I implemented the onInteract function to start a dialog manager's dialog, and I'm awaiting for the signal of the dialog manager that the dialog is finished, which effectively makes this interact function asynchronous, and the interaction manager will have to await for this dialog to finish before allowing us to interact with other objects. This is the dialog manager created in my text box video, but it's a little bit modified because I added a signal in the interaction area object.
right, okay, so that's just going to be the same.
Rectangular shape.
But it's going to be like turn on rather than
interact variable as a callable with the first parameter self and the second by just so. Check out more short interaction manager.
Okay, so where does the interaction manager become a singleton?
Custom. Let's also make a function called the first part of the interaction label, and
so this group manager here. Let's put, no. I was going to put the music back on, but I'm probably going to listen to a bit more on here.
The other part is going to be the action name that we defined in our interaction area. Let's also make that all interaction enters them.
So yeah, all of this.
Area is at that's greater than.
I feel like it was the bit where
the player's global position dot distance to.
After this, was it?
Action.
Or was it earlier?
By writing active, we're gonna write our player. So
whereabouts was it?
So the
no, earlier on here.
In the implementation for the
Okay. Scene name that. Label. Was it just here? Yeah, okay.
Also under ordering, let's set the Z index to something like 20, so the text appears above other elements. Now let's set up a couple things in the project settings. In the input map, add a new action called interact and assign it a button. I set mine to E. Then in the auto load up the interaction manager and press add. So now our interaction manager is a singleton and it's auto loaded. Now it's
right. Does that just automatically make it a singleton then by adding it to the auto load? Does it say localization globals? Was that in project settings or am I blind? Where is that? I don't have auto load. Input map localization auto load shaded globals. Did I not? Yeah, it should be here. Is there an auto load setting somewhere? Or is that a plugin? Can I search? I can search here. Auto load. Auto load, one word. Auto load on startup, maybe? That's for version control, that's not it. Okay, maybe not this then. Why is that not showing up though? Let's bring that volume back down. Don't need that loud. So let's say we're on our test screen. We kind of want our... Let's say we want our game manager to auto-load. Which is... Or just our input manager, maybe. Does it come up differently when we're on this? No. Show in file system. Play the scene. Is there a setting somewhere to make instantiates? No. Let's have a look in the help. So we go to the online docs again. How do we make it a singleton? I think what I need to do is kind of go back to this these two videos and just work my way through these properly, because at the moment I think I quite like the idea and the direction we have been going with the scripts of having like a separate input manager that handles stuff and then signals to the player or to the components what those inputs do. But I think there's just still a bit too many unknowns on how the rest of the engine works at the moment for me. So maybe it's a case of working through these properly again, which I think I might do next stream, which might be tomorrow. Let me just check my calendar. Yeah, I'll probably do a stream tomorrow. In which case, I think, can we move on to a next game on this? I think I've got to rate this first. Will this let me look at my queue? I can just go straight on to the next one. Cool. All right, let's do a couple more of the queue system. So we can have a look at these 5 and then actually rate them all after. That'll be easier. But I'm just going to do like a 5-minute break first. Actually, might be a bit longer. I just got to make a phone call as well. Oh, should I do this tomorrow? It might not be a 5-minute phone call, that's all. So I don't want to leave people hanging around. Let's find... Should we find a channel to raid then? Let's see if... See if there's any channels to raid, and then we'll send people over. What's going to be the best way to do this? I wonder if we search for the GMTK tag, if anyone's streaming on that. Hey Rinks, how's it going? I'm just looking for a raid target. Hope you're well. it's not the easiest overlap. I caught a bit of your stream yesterday, but it's literally like falling asleep. You were doing some What were you drawing? You've seen some character drawings. Past videos. Are there any live channels doing GMTK? No. That's not going to work. Okay, software and game jam. Or if anyone's got any suggestions for channels to raid, feel free. I don't think this is going to have recommendations because this isn't logged in on this browser. Yeah, I'm surprised nothing came up on the tags, right? GMTK. Oh, there you go. Should we go to one of these two? Left or right? What do you want? Should probably have a little listen then. Yeah, it might be more of a YouTube thing. Pre-roll. Let's see if this one doesn't have pre-rolls, then might be better. Loading. Let's pause our music because you can't hear anything over that.
Enemy buildings. Okay, capture. Okay, you start with single building, a leaf. In the bottom
I can't hear anything at all.
Convert. Argue with neutral people to gain extra units. Control buildings, spawn units over time. Okay, I don't need to like spawn them. Enter on control.
Wait, you do that? Oh wait, it's the wrong crop. Oh, it's the one on the side. My bad.
Left, sure. Let's do left. It's gonna be easier. Does it raid from the stream manager? I haven't done this in so long. Sorry. Sorry for the all the delays. If I raid from the stream manager, is it going to send me across to it, or do I need a separate window to follow? You can tell how rusty I am with all this. Okay. Do I even have a raid message as well? That's the other thing. What do you reckon? Is there a raid thing? Maybe? Try? Nope. It doesn't look like it. Okay, we don't need a raid message. We're just gonna go say hi. Yeah, well, I'm gonna use the raid manager in the stream manager. So hopefully this is starting a raid. Thanks for everyone for watching. See you all next time. Oh no, it's just the raid message / raid name. I thought the countdown was going to send you guys straight away, but I can choose when to raid. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So probably going to be back tomorrow. Going to do a few more play rating side of things, and we'll probably run through these tutorials. I like that. Yeah. GG's from LumberGG. Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna copy that. Let's use that. Thank you, Snail. I hope everyone has a good evening or day, depending on where you are. And yeah, catch you all later. Cheers. Bye.